Okay, we're live. Hello, guys. Hey, Ava. Hey, Cleo. Thank you guys for joining me in this podcast session. Today, we're going to talk about love, dating, um, safety in dating, and answer like questions from the community. So, um, why don't we just kick off with some intros? Do you want to start, Ava?
Yeah. So I'm a writer. I write a substack called Bookbear Express. I also do some coaching, both personal and executive coaching, and I've been doing matchmaking for the past year or so, both via survey and in-person events, which is how I met Christine and Cleo. But yeah, I'm both a fiction, nonfiction writer, and I really like doing this interpersonal work.
Amazing.
Oh, hi. I'm someone who's really passionate about making dating, love, and connection safer because of personal experiences around it. And I'm experimenting with different ways of doing it, including dating events, coaching, and yeah, it's just playing around with it, how to make dating safer.
Very cool. I feel like you've thrown some really like fun events that um at places that we've been to. But cool. And then I'm Christine. I run a dating app called Cuties. I'm also just like generally online and like to write and post about community building, like self-actualization, fulfilling, and yeah, we also all met at the Love Symposium in SF where we ran this love mixer, and that was a really fun time. Um, yeah, actually, do we want to start there and talk about any like reflections on the love mixer that we threw?
Oh, I'm very pleased that we managed to get more women to come than men because we required each guy to bring a woman, which is rare in San Francisco.
No, I definitely feel like, I was talking about this with a group of friends. Like, it's much easier for some reason to throw a cool party than a cool matchmaking event. Like, there's something about like the matchmaking event and like the vibe itself that's a little bit more challenging. But I think we did a great job of curating a good vibe.
Yeah, so the way the dating, to your point, I feel like throwing something like this is a good time to throw something novel in the dating space because I think everyone is both really tired of dating apps and like really wanting something like a new way to meet people. So the way we threw it, we actually had these like polls and we grouped people according to where they landed on certain questions. Do you guys remember? It was like what do you look for in
Um,
friends? Or and then like based off of that, there's like a secondary question of like, would it be so fun to like with all your friends in the big group house and your partner? And there's like ways for people to get to know each other. Yeah.
I think we did a good job of that. Like, we had people talk about things, like you said, of like, would you live in a group house with your friends?
Yeah.
How, who are you? Like, do you believe in ghosts? And I feel like there's something about matchmaking events where there's sort of this tension between structure and freedom, right? Where it's like you want people to end up with people who like agree with them on things. Like, I think one of the things we asked was like monogamous versus polyamory. Like, we want
Yeah.
people to like sort themselves based on things like that. But you also sort of want this like free flowing nature where I think the challenge with some events, like speed dating events, is like it can feel too structured. So you want to kind of give people an opportunity to find people similar to them while also letting people do like, just to roam and like find people they vibe with naturally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we had like what, like 100 people show up, and it looked like a lot of good conversations were happening. I actually ran into some friends. I heard a lot about like dates after that happened, and I was at the
mm,
climbing gym later in New York, and I ran into a friend who was like on a date with a guy from our like mixer. So it's
cool.
always fun for me to like see what comes out of these events. But yeah, I think we wanted to go into sort of like each of our stories. And because we each come with like a different perspective and different experiences, but I think it'll like be fun to just bring that to people watching this. Yeah, Ava, you've like run different matchmaking events, speed dating events. You have like your blog. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think for me, I sort of naturally fell into matchmaking just because I write about relationships and psychology and friendships. And I think I come at it from a perspective of like, I really think that like dating through people who are similar to your friends is really important. Like the thing that I've always felt in my dating life is like I've always dated people who are friends of friends. Like, I've been on dating apps before, but I've always ended up like dating people who actually were part of my connected friend network. And that's just because I really think that like one of the most important things in dating is that you want to date people who are very similar to your friends in the sense of like you actually would want to hang out with them even if they were not someone who you were attracted to, or they were someone who were like, of the gender you're not attracted to. Like, I think you really want to date people who are just people who like you would actually hang out just because they're so cool. And I think that's the philosophy I really try to bring to like any kind of matchmaking event or just social event in general, where I want it to just be a gathering of like people you would get along with as friends. And then if there happens to be that extra bonus of like, oh, like you think this person's really hot and you want to hang out with them and make out with them, like that's awesome. But I try to start with a baseline of like, hey, like you have something in common. You like hanging out with the same people. You want to talk about the same things. You have a shared like intellectual life. There are like, I feel like for me, like the reason why a bunch of people who read my Substack were like, you should set us up is because like, they geeked out about the same things, right? Where they were also very interested in like friendship and like the Enneagram and talking about psychology and like coming from that base, like shared interest is very important. So I think that's really how I approach like matchmaking, where I'm like, I'm really in it for the love of the game. And I just want to connect people who have like things in common with each other. Cause I feel like I've benefited so much romantically and platonically from just having a great friend group. And like, that's sort of how I see like doing matchmaking and how I think love should work, where it's like, it should really be about having great friends and everything else should be an extension of that.
I love that. And I know you've run like a number of events and you have like a matchmaking survey, right?
I've
What is
actually tried
that?
the matchmaking survey.
Probably have it.
I've been one of Ava's
Oh
clients.
my gosh. Okay.
It's fun. I'm curious about it. Like, what is it like? Because you have like a big reader viewership. Like,
Yeah, I met this guy recently. His name's like David, but he also does like matchmaking surveys and like matchmaking events. And like one thing he said that I totally agree with is like, getting the positive feedback is so important. Where for me, I'm like, I'm really just in it to try to help people make connections. And like, I don't always know if it's effective. Like, I send out surveys and stuff after the fact, but like, once in a while I'll hear from someone, they'll be like, hey, like I met my best friend at your party. I met my like boyfriend at your party, and that's the most important thing. So I think for me, it's like, I'm really just trying to curate like a really good vibe and like a really good group of people. And like the best thing I could hear is like, hey, like I met your girlfriend at your party. And so like I'm always trying to optimize for that. And for both like the online survey and in-person events, I've heard people say things like, hey, like, I met someone I really like through you. And so for me, it's really about just like, how do you keep that going? And over time, how do you do higher and higher quality events and surveys? And so, yeah, I think it helps a
Um,
lot because like for my Substack base, like, you know, I think for Substacks, there's something cool where like with any like in community event, like I think Christine, I'm curious to hear you speak on this, right? Where like for Cuties, like there is kind of like a base demographic of people who like are on Cuties because they have something in common. I don't know if it's because they're all part of the same internet community. Maybe it's because like of a way of life or kind of like a shared philosophy. But it's like I really find that in community dating, I think there's something really interesting about that, right? Where like you're looking for people who have a shared ethos to you. And like I think for me, like that's what's really helped make anything I do successful. And I'm really curious to hear about like for Cuties, I assume that's something you see a lot where it's like, yeah, like it's not like something that makes it work is not just like the fact that it's like a random selection of people, but because like all of these people actually have some way of looking at the world that makes them compatible with each other.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I'm happy to, I guess, talk about cuties and my projects. Yeah, so I run this, it's a community-based dating app. So it's exactly what you're saying, Ava, where I feel like if you're swiping on Hinge, I'm just swiping on like random strangers. Part of the reason, if you're like, let's say you're at a birthday party at, like in your friend's apartment complex, and you enter her like unit and you see all the people there. There's like, I don't know, 30 people. And like within this bubble, within this container and shared social context, you might reasonably want to like chat with someone and get to know them. If there's a party happening in the next unit over, like that's a whole different social context. And like arguably, yes, you have like the same like you have proximity, right? Like you're in the same like 2 mile radius, but there's just so much more context within um even just like a friend's birthday party, like a friend's party. It's like you probably have certain lifestyle similarities. You probably have like certain values in common. You can anchor based off of like even just your friend who's hosting. Like what can you reasonably expect from her taste in people? And
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah, yeah. And Cuties began as it began as a joke. My guy friend, we were hanging out in SF and he was just regaling us with all these like horror stories from Hinge. And I made the joke like, oh, we should make a dating app where we match all the girls with just you. And we're all like, yes, we should do this. But yeah, I like made this dating app and put it on the internet, and we're all a part of this like internet community that I would say is it's like sort of the intersection of many overlapping communities, but it includes things like um I think Kat, you described them once as intellectual hippies, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. It's like hippies who still believe in science.
Yeah, like intellectual hippies, also like online, which makes it really easy to like continue talking to them. But we already had like a friend group established, and so within this community, it felt like there is a lot of shared temperament, I would say, like a certain amount of like open-mindedness, kindness, some degree of earnesty, also some degree of like probably epistemic rigor, and like a lot of shared ideas. People have read books like, I don't know, like impro or pattern language. Like there's like certain shared, yeah, like there's enough that you can probably have a good conversation with someone. I actually feel like I made Cuties and people started to just tell me about like you just put your profile on there. I don't necessarily manage it, but they just connect. Like it's like putting everyone into a big party and they all self-select and like match with each other. And there was recently a baby that came out of
Oh
Cuties.
my God.
Yeah.
Like the
The
parents met
guy
like
I
2 years
made Cuties
ago,
for.
which year?
Sorry?
You know which year? Like when they met and like what happened?
Yeah, actually, there's multiple. Like another thing about Cuties is that it tends to be almost like the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's like they already kind of know each other from like they've seen each other at a distance. They might have some mutual friends. They might have seen each other at a party, but then they also see each other on Cuties. And on Cuties, there's like a slightly more like intentional signal where it's like you have your profile, you like wrote what you're looking for. You might not know their age or where they live. There's like some photos. Usually there's just like people will just link out to their different social media accounts, and you can learn a lot from seeing someone's like Twitter or Instagram or like Substack. It's like there's a lot of context in how they just naturally show up in their lives. And yeah, anyways, they met through a series of things, including like a party, also at a coffee shop. They also follow each other on Twitter, and then like they also liked each other on Cuties. And so with that additional like explicit signal, that led to like, yeah, no, they have a baby. The guy I made Cuties for has a girlfriend that he met on Cuties. Yeah.
So cool. You're making lives better.
It's really
Happy
cute, and I've
ending.
made a lot of friends. Like, so there is something really fun to me about just seeing like what comes out of this space. But to your point, Ava, I actually feel like dating is like, yes, dating is a big part of Cuties, but I think I've also made a lot of like friends through it and like female friends and just like acquaintance like connections. So I'm yeah, thinking about like transitioning it into more of like a social app for this kind of base of like intellectual hippies and then expanding it from there. It's also kind of like a meta it's a platform that serves as a bridge to many communities. So I see people come in from like people I've met in Europe, people I've met in SF, like people from different like co-living spaces or group houses, but they all have some degree of like overlap and then they come onto Cuties and that's actually really good because then you're exposed to people who are like adjacent to your scene. Cool. Yeah. Um and then yeah, Cleo, I feel like we met at we met at Edge Esmeralda,
Yeah,
right?
in
Yeah.
Hillsburg.
And you were
Yeah.
running like one of your I feel like you run really fun events. Was it
Yeah, it
like
was called
Daddy
Prompt
or
Me
something?
Daddy, Prompt Me Daddy. It was like a prompting AI workshop where you were like creating a dating coach, an AI dating coach. Yeah. Um,
Didn't you
but
also run one at the castle that was like,
what was that?
was it dating
Uh,
horror stories or something like that?
yes, exactly. People could share the horror stories about dating, like what do you hate about dating and how do you feel about it. And in the past, I've also run like workshops on blowjobs and sex, and also held circles for survivors of sexual assault, because that's like an issue that's close to my heart because of my personal experience with it. Um, yeah, I really want people to be able to explore sexuality and connection and love in a way that doesn't cause harm, and meeting each other and entering and exiting each other's lives in a way where we leave each other more open to the world and better for the better and not for the worse. Um, yeah, and I'm currently exploring how it feels like to coach people on this. Because I mean, I love talking about sex and love and people's love lives, and I had some success in helping um, female friends improve their sex lives, also male friends. So I'm just exploring, yeah, where that takes me and where that goes. I feel like right now there's like a big divide between men and women, and we are like having less sex than before. Um, Obviously because of our screens, but also I just think there's more that can be done to have better connections between everyone.
I'm so curious. Like, I didn't know you were doing coaching around this. So,
Well, it's
like,
new.
okay,
I'm
cool.
experimenting with it. See how it goes.
Yeah. Is there a lot of demand for like what kind of topic areas? Like, because Ava, you also do coaching, but I feel like it's like a different angle. Um, but yeah, like what do you hear like the most demand for?
One friend that I talked to recently, he was talking about like the struggle of finding someone that's long-term compatible, and like he lives in Bulgaria, but like the people in Bulgaria don't really appreciate him being very emotionally mature. Like they appreciate more like being a provider, which he can also do, but like that's not why he wants to be chosen, you know? Um, so there's stuff like that. From my perspective, like I've really had like a journey going from like being sexually assaulted to like letting love and pleasure into my life, and it's like an issue that's like so taboo, like we don't dare to talk about it, and like it's so painful to talk about, so like survivors don't really share that much tips with each other because we don't even know that we're have the same experience. So I really want to create more openness around it and just like make it easier to talk about.
Nice.
I'm not sure about you, Ava. Like, that, are you seeing reoccurring themes?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I say in coaching clients is that like I like to help people through transitions. So it can be both personal and professional. So sometimes people see me because they want to like figure out if they want to commit to a partner or they want to break up with a partner. Sometimes it's some sort of work transition, like they want to leave their job or they want to make like a major shift. Sometimes can be just around like, yeah, like navigating any kind of big change. And I find that with coaching, like I really like to focus on like something that's more goal oriented. So it's like, where are you now and where do you want to go? And like trying to help people be more accountable with that. Like for me, I've been self-employed for a long period of time. And I think because of that, like I've had to build certain routines and structures for myself to like be like, hey, like what do I want in my professional life? Like how do you build structure when there's no kind of external incentive and you sort of have to like make your own structure? And I like also, I'm sure like you, Cleo, like love talking to people about their relationships. And so there's just something very joyful about that. And honestly, in my life, like I had a lot of anxiety about starting coaching because I'm like, it feels crazy to charge people money for something that like I would just do, like I was doing just for free with my friends. But I found that like the container of coaching has actually been really helpful for like helping people make progress. Because like, when you're talking to your friends, like, or like with a romantic partner or something, like it's complicated because it's not really just about helping them. It's about the relationship, right? So it's like, you want to help your friend with their like breakup or their work stuff or whatever, but also like sometimes you just want to have a good time. Like you want to go to a cocktail bar on like a Thursday night and you want to just like talk to them and like you're like kind of like, I don't know how honest I should be because like, maybe I'm being annoying, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
he's complaining about his girlfriend or something and you're like, I don't know, like this is not the vibe, like maybe I just want to be a good friend. And I think with coaching, you are able to have clearer boundaries, right? Where you're like, I'm here to help you with your work problem, or I'm here to help you with your relationship problem. And like, that's why you pay me. And it's like 60 minutes a week. And like, we're here for a specific reason. And so I'm curious what you think, Cleo. But for me, I've actually found it very like empowering because I'm like, there's actually a very clear container and you understand why you're helping this person with what. And I think that actually can help you make a lot more progress. And it feels good to help people with their problems, like I really enjoy that.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm just starting out and like I am like wading through a lot of anxiety, like, because I don't want to be one of those coaches who like think they have something to offer and then in the end they just create harm. So like there's like I definitely don't want to be that. And I'm still trying to figure out like exactly what's my niche and what's the value that I can bring. I definitely think there's a lot I can offer around uh, navigating sexual trauma and like stuff that's like hard to talk about around sex that like
Mm.
maybe you have no one in your life to talk about when it comes to sex. Um, and I also think uh like I'm particularly sensitive when it comes to like safety. And so I think like I could help men like if you are able to help women feel safe, if you're dating women, then like they're much more likely to open up to you and for that to create connection. Um, but in terms of like coaching containers and what that can bring, I imagine I will really enjoy like the what like that it's okay for me to give truth bombs. You, you know, with friends, you're kind of like, should I say this thing that I see? That's kind of like a painful truth. But like with a coach, you're basically paid to do that. And I think, yeah, I think I think I could tell people like the obvious thing that like people are not willing to tell you. Because like people just say, I'm not
Um,
interested or like I didn't feel it, you know? But like I can just tell you like, okay, I think this is it. This might be a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think such a true thing, like very astute, where it's like, yeah, I think in friendships or in like other relationships, like truth is not always what people want. Sometimes it's kind of like, I just want support. Like, I don't want you to tell me like the most honest thing about the situation. Like, I want you to just be like, I love you. And like, I think coaching actually can be really good because it sort of is a space where you're like, I'm here to receive truth. And like as a coach, I'm here to like give my honest feedback. And like, that can be really helpful. Like, I think friendship can be a very complicated relationship where it's like, sometimes you want to be like really honest and sometimes you don't. And that's like a thing that you have to navigate in the interpersonal relationship, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's just not always a space for you to drop truth bombs.
But I think also like the fact that you pay for it, you're more likely to listen to the advice. Like I might just be saying the same things other people have been telling you, but like you're not gonna listen to them because you're I don't know. There's a reason why you're not listening to your surroundings, and yeah.
I do like I totally agree. And also I like want my friends to be like really truthful. Like I want like like a culture of like yeah, like radical empathy or something where it's like tell me like if I'm clearly avoiding something, like you should tell me. And I think my friends do in like through like humor or something, like they'll roast me and it's like okay, like um and then it's like good. Like I want like feedback and I want to hear. But also I want to sort of segue a bit into like if we want, we could like talk about our own love lives and then get into community questions. Because we have a number. So, yeah. You guys feel like talking about?
I can start if you want
Yeah,
to.
go for it.
Um, well, I'm currently in Bali, and I came here for a coaching container for a relationship that I was in, and I came here with two of my partners, and then the coaching container just blew up.
Wow.
And it had like culty tendencies, and I basically had to get out of it. And um, the coach broke up with, or the the girlfriend of the coach broke up with the coach.
Wow.
Both of my relationships ended, and like we're all friends. Like I'm all friends with my exes and stuff. So like it's not like bad blood or anything, but so that's going on for me. But um, I have a high appetite for love. I think one of the great things about me and my experience, like despite all of my painful experiences, I've stayed open to love.
Hmm.
Like I think a lot of people, if they get hurt a lot, they close off. Um, and I've like managed to stay open to love, and but
You've
that
also been
means
in
I've
like, sorry.
what?
Oh, just you're like in like more like poly circles, right? Like poly
Yeah,
queer
yeah,
kink,
yeah.
like yeah.
But I have experienced like a heartbreak, like an above average amount of heartbreak in my life. So I definitely know how to navigate that, and Bali's like the best place to heal from something like that.
Let's see, Bali seems like a great place to deal with like
Yeah,
romantic confusion and heartbreak. It's
yeah.
like beautiful.
Cool. Um, I guess I can give an update. It's kind of funny because I actually had like a previous podcast with my two other friends on like love, marriage, dating. And yeah, I'm like currently seeing someone, and we did like long distance for a bit. It was actually kind of rocky. Like the long distance was hard, but now he's coming to New York, and that feels really exciting. And I actually have this like bit of a theory where I think like the first 7 months or like first like number of months of a relationship tend to be kind of rocky because you're like learning to like parallelize your lives. Like it could also be a honeymoon period, but again, like long distance and like depending on the circumstances, like I think it's not surprising if there's a bit of like you meet each other and then you like don't talk for like a month or more and then you run into each other again at a party. Like there's like these little blips of signal that then add up to a relationship. But yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling like excited and happy about where I am. I also read this book, Calling in the One, which
Ooh,
is a book
I've
on
heard of
like,
this.
yeah, it's by Katherine Thomas, and like it has you do all these practices, like including like a letting go like ritual where you like I like actually had all these like keepsakes from previous relationships and you get rid of those. And there's like this idea of like making space in your like room and like life and like room, your space, your time, even like for me, my mind, because I'm so into like my own projects and my own inner world and like whatever I'm up to at the time. And the idea of like, oh, making space for someone else was like, okay, like that was like big for me. But yeah, I think that's the latest on me.
So it
That's
worked.
exciting.
Huh?
The book, Calling in the One, it worked for you.
I mean, we'll see.
I feel like exciting that's like not going to be long distance anymore. Like that'll be your great
Um,
transition.
yeah, exactly. It feels
Wow,
like
so you're
notable to reach
so
that.
you both are gonna be like in New York or something now? Amazing.
How about you, Ava?
Well, I got out of a really long relationship, like a 7 year relationship, a year and a half ago, and yeah, I feel like since then I've been doing some exploration, and it's been really fun. Like I think it's really just been about like me learning like what I want and what I need in a partner, and yeah, I think it's been really fun and I'm having a good time. I read this book called Passionate Marriage recently that I really recommend since we're
Oh,
doing
I've heard about that.
so good. And I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like it's about, having a passionate marriage. And I think it's super, super interesting. And it touches on something that I feel like I both felt in my relationship and have been learning in like kind of like the dating sense, where it's like, I think being close to someone is really about individuation, you know? It's about kind of like true intimacy is about like taking responsibility for your own feelings and your own kind of development as an individual, while also like being really close and like caring for a partner, you know? And like I just
Mhm.
feel like that's like and like he really goes and talks about how the various aspects of marriage are affected by this, how sex is affected by this. I just think it's like a really wonderful book, and it's like something that like I feel like I've really had to learn, you know, where I feel like when I was younger, like in my like I don't know, like late teens or 20s or whatever, I had this conception of closeness as sort of like almost this like emotional like Siamese bond, you know, where you're just like
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
glued to your partner, and you're like, if they're happy, I'm happy. But also like if they're sad, I'm sad. You know, so if my partner's having a
Mhm.
bad time, like I'm having a bad freaking time. And I think something that I've really had to learn, like really dating as an adult, is to be like, wow, like real love. I think real intimacy is being able to hold like my partner be having a really bad day, and I can be like, I acknowledge that and I care for you. But also maybe having a good day. Like I don't know, you know, I have my own life, my own emotional kind of presence, and like
Mhm.
I don't know if I felt like that has been emotionally like sort of as explicitly addressed in any other book I've read. So I really recommend it. I think there's something really important about that, where it's like to be really close to someone, I think you really have to like lean into your full emotional expression differentiation as an individual. So great book.
I love that. It also kind of rhymes with I was reading like chapter 12 in Maslow's like motivation and personality book, and chapter 11 is really fascinating because it's about like self-actualizing people, and I love it because he
Really
just
briefing your tweets on that, by the way. Like the tweet was really good.
well, I love it because it actually spells out like one model, not like the model, but like one model of like a healthy, like how to show up in like a healthy way. And then the next chapter is like another model of like, oh, what might healthy love look like? And one of the things that stood out to me is similar to what you were just saying with passionate marriage, where it's like the ability to both like to like be to preserve your own ego while also merging, which like feels really interesting. It's like you can be your own people and still like transcend in this like relationship. So yeah, really, really fun chapter. I recommend it. Should we get into the questions? I know you have to okay,
Yeah,
go in like the
let's
hour.
go.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's start with like dating culture in different cities, moving around. Let's see. There's a few questions. I'll just read all like a few of the travel related ones. I want to hear how dating scenes differ in SF, LA, and New York City, and if it's worth moving to be around more of your type. Have you learned anything from like living in different places and dating in them? Um,
And for context, so Ava in San Francisco, and then Christine is in New York. Um,
I've moved
I'm
around a lot.
yeah, right, and I'm kind of nomadic, but I've been mostly in San Francisco of those places, but I've also been in
Well, we're
Berlin and
qualified to talk
Norway.
about all the different dating scenes.
And you've been a lot in like Europe too, right, Cleo? Like
Yeah,
all
yeah,
over
yeah.
the
I'm
world.
from Norway. I lived in Berlin and now in
Yeah,
Bali, but
I'm curious
yeah.
about Berlin, honestly, because I've seen like Berlin TikToks of like the non-committal artsy Berlin dude. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's so non-committal. Berlin is the capital of sex. It's great if you want sex. It's like horrible if you're looking for something long term, unless maybe if you're like want to date someone German, which I don't recommend. It's sorry. It's not too harsh to say. It's not for me. Okay, it's not for me. Other people might enjoy it. It's not for me.
I guess I can also speak to like I've lived in SF, LA, and New York, and dated all of those. In I would say the biggest contrast from what we was actually between LA and New York. I felt like in LA there is a lot more of like like casual, vibey hanging out. It would like you'll be like I I felt like in New York, guys would just ask me out straight, like just straight up, be very direct, and I loved that. And at the same time, I've heard that like dating is awful in New York. I hear dating is awful in every city, honestly, but like the reason why people say dating is awful in New York is that there's too much optionality, the gender ratio is not as nice. My initial experience was just that guys were more straightforward compared to LA, because in LA it felt like we're just like they never ask you on a date. They're just like, "Oh, like, do you want to hang?" Like, it was like more like hanging out, or like there's a lot more like plausible deniability and like what the interaction could be. Whereas in New York, it felt like a lot more like, you know, if they take you, this is just my experience, but it felt more direct and straightforward. And I think that's partly just like you pick a city because of the people, and they like each city does have a different culture. SF, I can
Definitely.
speak less to. I just got straight into a relationship early in my 20s. But yeah, I hear that like I don't know, gender ratio is better. Ava, you're an SF. What do you think?
Yeah, I've also been in relationships for a lot of the time, but I think my general philosophy is like, first of all, there are different people in different cities. Like for example, in SF, it's true that there are a lot of guys in like tech and STEM. And if you hate all guys in tech, SF is probably not going to be the best place for you to date, you know? And like I think that's something like, you have to just sort of reckon with yourself, right? Where I think something that's really important, like with dating any city, is like you sort of have to go out and like develop an understanding of like what your type of person is and
Hmm.
whether you can find them in that city.
Yeah.
And the truth is like, in any large city, there are different demographics of people. Like there are like artists in SF, like, there are like if there is a really big city, there's gonna be it's like big enough where you're gonna be able to find the type of person like you want to meet. And like I think the most important thing is for you to actually be like, do I know what I'm looking for? And do I have a good route to finding that? Whether it's like Hinge, my friend group, events, whatever. You have to be realistic with yourself. And like I think there is this thing where if you're like, okay, like, I feel like I hate all guys in tech and there's a lot of guys in tech and SF. Like maybe it's not the best place for you to stay. But it's like you sort of have to understand what you want and make a decision about that. And there's also something where it's like, the truth is like the gender ratio is worse for women in New York. But obviously people still get in relationships in New York all the time. So like if you're a woman in New York, are you okay with the fact that like the odds are slightly worse or are you not? Like I think for me, like the way I'm gonna go on a rant, but like I think basically my sense of it is like I think a lot of times people don't display a lot of personal agency in dating. And the
Um,
best way to display personal agency is to really think about what you want and figure out like, what's the best venue for you to get that? Like, how can you meet the type of person you like? And if there's no way for you to do that in the city, yeah, it's probably not gonna work out for you. And if it is, you sort of have to go out there and see like what's working for you. It's like even the stuff you were saying, Christine, where it's like, okay, like if you don't like it when guys are like super casual and they're kind of just like, let's hang out, like, all right, like, can you find guys in LA who are like actually gonna take you on dinner dates if what you want is to go on dinner dates? Or can you not? And like, I think there are just kind of these questions where I think the thing I would really encourage people to do is like figure out like who they like and what kind of like relationships they want to be in and like whether they can find a way to do that in the city they live in. And they can't, maybe it's a good idea to move. But like I often feel like people are not taking a lot of agency or just not really like exploring with regard to like they don't know what they want and they're sort of just passively responding to what comes their way. But I really think that like, no matter what city you live in, it's like worth for you to kind of like really self-reflect and be like, what do I want and how do I get that? And like I think people will be well served by doing that.
yeah.
For me, like I went from Berlin to San Francisco and I found that I met a lot more interesting guys that I wanted to get in relationships with. So it was like it was totally worth
What
it for
about
me
was different?
to just go for a few months. Well, for me, like one of my big love languages is like food and gifts. And like in Germany, like it's very like 50-50 down to the cent, which is just like very off for me who has like a Vietnamese background. Um, and so like meeting people in SF who's like more generous and have more of like an abundance mindset. And also just like I felt like people were more passionate there. Just like
Hmm.
there's something they're passionate about, like they're working
Oh,
towards, they're excited
yeah.
about something. They're like really oriented around self-development and growth. I feel like Berlin is more like hedonistic, really enjoying life, which is great, but like it's just it's slightly too hedonistic for where I am in my life now, where I want to settle down and with someone.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, I had a point around if you don't know what you want, I do think it's worth it to explore. Like just put yourself in different contexts and like see how your nervous system responds. Like, do you feel good and you have no idea why, but you just really feel good in a certain city? Like that's a sign. You know, there's a lot of details just like etched into like the architecture, the people, or the conversations that like probably speak to you for some reason. And like you might have to figure it out somehow eventually. Like, I mean, if you, but like also if you just feel good, like it's good to like explore and get a sense. And I am pro like move to the city that you like best. Like if you feel like choosing your context will do a lot for like many things in your life beyond dating. So if you're in exactly where you want to be, then that's like good for you and your dating odds because you'll probably be more attractive to the people who like see you in that context. Um, okay, we have more questions. Okay, let's see. There's another cluster around irritations. Let me read it. When someone I really like does small things that irritate me, how do I know whether the issue is my own tolerance and expectations or a genuine incompatibility? How do I assess whether my annoyance is about their behavior or the meaning I'm assigning to it, or an underlying mismatch in values, habits, or communication style? And I think, how do I tell whether small sensory or habit annoyances, like loudness, chewing, and mannerisms, are normal parts of being close to someone versus signs of like poor day-to-day compatibility?
I think first to that I want to say like figure out if you have something called misophonia. Like if you have misophonia, people chewing will make you like aggressive, like you want to beat them up. And and another thing, like when you get close to someone, it's like it's totally natural that like small things are gonna, or like there's stuff that's gonna be annoying. Like there's no doubt around that. Like when you spend a lot of time with someone over time, like there's gonna be stuff like that that's totally normal. And then the question is just like, how do you navigate that? How do you talk to each other? Like obviously, like if you feel like they're chewing with their mouth open, you don't like it, you got to be able to say something.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I can chime in. I really agree with that last point of like I was really stuck on this at one point. You can communicate it. It's wild. Like
Oh my God, what?
it takes a lot of trust actually and safety to do this, especially and it can be really hard if you're earlier on in dating. But also like if you're trying to actually do something like actually establish something here like it's worth bringing up, especially if it's minor for them to fix. And especially like, and I do think something I look for is like ability to take feedback and like adapt to feedback because there's probably all these things that you guys just aren't used to fitting together. So yeah, like try to like communicate it. And also I think at the same time, I've been a part of like a scenario where something was communicated to me that was like hard for me to change, and I found it really hard to like deal with. So I think if it's something that's impossible to change, then like, yeah, I don't know, like think about it. And also, I think not only can you communicate it, I was really stuck on something like this because I was like, oh my, I have multiple gut feelings about like one like certain person I'm dating, whoever that is. And I think that there's actually different like layers of gut feeling. One is like a really deep incompatibility. Um, like your nervous system might be like screaming at you consistently over a long period of time. And then there's sort of like two other areas that I think were interesting. One is more around like your ego and like calling in the one talks about this, where it's like you're looking for your life partner, not your ego partner. So like if you're getting confused or like stuck on things like, oh, like this person like isn't, I don't know, like as cool or like isn't exactly how I imagined them to be, like I don't know, like is that something that will matter like 30 years into marriage? Or like when you're going through like a major health issue, right? And I think there's another gut feeling that was more around like your attachment and like your patterns. And I think that's something that it's hard. It's like hard to parse, but you can look at your own like past behavior, how you've showed up. Does it extend beyond this person? And then for me, like even just looking at like the pros and cons, and I was like, wow, like all of the small things, these are all like small things, and like they're actually not a big deal. And so I was able to basically like move past it. But yeah, what do you think,
But I
Ava?
think,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I have like a lot of thoughts on this topic. So first of all, everything about your partner annoys you, that probably means there's something emotionally that's bothering you. So like if you're like, I don't like the way this person looks, the way they smell, the way they act, like if everything about them annoys you, that's a bad sign. Get out of the relationship.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if they're on a basic level, if you're like everything about this person is unpleasant to me, like get out. So first of all that. But I also think there's something where like yeah, it is important to kind of like separate the things are kind of like primal signals around like my body is rejecting this person, my psyche is rejecting this person versus like ego things like what you're talking about, Christine, or like as someone who does matchmaking, like I do think a lot of times people can get like hung up on like I think a lot of people are actually pretty like out of touch with their bodies and like they have some idea of what they're attracted to the point where they can't even access their genuine attraction, where I really think like genuine attraction is really not something where it's like it's about connecting to your body and to your psyche and to your emotions. And often the person you find like most attractive, I really think it's like it is about like who they are, the essence of them. And I do meet people who are sometimes like really hung up on like this person has to have a certain body type, they have to look this way, they have a job. And like I don't think that's what attraction really is. I think if you like really love someone, you can find them like really, really hot. Like even if they like don't have the hair color or the skin color, like I really think there's something about like you should find someone's soul attractive and like a long-term partner, and you should be open to that. Where it's like the essence of their being should be hot to you, and that should be something that's like you're paying attention to. It's not about the superficial things. But, like there also is a sign where it's like if you just like if looking at them irritates you, that's a bad sign. And so like I think it's just like a very complicated issue where like I think you should it's really important to tune into like okay like what is coming from kind of like a more ego driven superficial place and what is coming from like a deep emotional bodily place and like like no one can really like differentiate that except for you, right? But I think I would pay attention to that, where it's like the person you fall in love with is not always necessarily like they're not always going to look the way you think they should look. They're not always going to have the superficial or like status markers that you think they should have, but they should be someone who you're genuinely attracted to and like feel excited about. So that's all I can say about that.
But I think I would also add like if you are finding a lot of stuff to be annoyed about, like look at yourself. Like, are you making stuff up because you want to push this person away because
Mhm.
you're just actually not ready for love?
Yeah.
I have personally, I have a related question to this.
What's the question?
How soon do you feel attraction? Is it something that builds over time or is it instant? And is it different for men and women?
it really varies for me because I've experienced like instant attraction and I've had and then I explore it and it like goes away. It's like, oh, actually, like you were really attractive from like a distance. And then like upon like talking or having conversation and getting closer, it's like, oh no, like this isn't like the whole package is not attractive to me. And then there's a lot of people where like I don't notice, like we're just friends and we're just hanging out and chatting, and then it's like, oh wow, like it like builds up over time. So I've
Hmm.
experienced it both ways.
How about you, Ava?
Me too, I agree with that, where I think that I've experienced both like instant attraction as well as attraction that builds from like a friendship or a relationship over time. But I think the one thing that's important is that like if someone's right for you or a good partner, I think the attraction should build over time. So like, even if you're super attracted to them right away, you should sustain and keep feeling that attraction increase. And if they're like someone who you're like pretty neutral about right away, like you should feel the attraction like build slowly over time. But I think it's a bad sign the attraction goes like downhill. Sometimes you meet someone who's really hot, and then like read their Twitter, and you're like, I have the ick on a level I could not conceptualize, and that's like very sad, but it happens.
Yeah. I
What
think
about you,
my
Cleo?
personal opinion is that like for men, if they don't feel attraction right away, it's just not gonna happen. I don't think men experience
For
attraction
men.
building. Yeah. But
Mm.
I think it can build for women. But I think sometimes when we don't feel the spark right away, we might, disqualify people whose attraction could build over time. But I'm not sure. I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, I think something I going back to the chapter I talked about in the like self-love and self-actualizing couples that I really liked, was this idea of like looking at a painting and it's like, oh, it's a nice painting, and it's like over time you notice more and more details. And if it's like a good painting, then the more you look at it, the more fond you grow of it and the more attracted you are to it. But also, if it's not a good painting, then the more you look at it, the more you dislike it.
Really real. Like there is something where like the people I like most, even though like I mean no one's perfect for you, right? So like even if someone's like really amazing, like they're imperfect. But like if you really love someone, I really believe it's like a painting where you're like, even their imperfections are beautiful to me. Like there's just something about like this painting, this person that like truly like the longer I spend with it, the more I want to invest in it. And it's a really bad sign if you're like, the more I look at this painting, the
Yeah.
uglier it becomes. Like that is not a good sign. That's why I say everything about your partner is so irritating to you. That's really a sign for your body, like get out.
And I think time really tells, like as you spend time with
Mm.
someone, you get to know and you get to like even the things around like, oh, like the irritations or whatnot, I think like the more and more time you spend, like I guess is a good segue into the next like topic around breakups. Like there's a cluster of questions all around like how do you know wait, where is it? How to decide if breaking up was the right thing to do. And then there's another one like, oh, like there's the breakup and they can't get over someone. Like, what do I do? Stuck between yearning and lovelorn. Yeah, I think like in terms of also like deciding when to break up, I think if it's been like for me, like I kind of have like timestamps, and I'm like, oh, it's been this amount of time. And like let's say you're going through struggles in your relationship and it's been like over a year and the things haven't gotten better. Like that's a signal for me, Like and if you don't timestamp it, you might just be like maybe it'll continue to get better. And for me, I'm actually like no, I want to have faith. And if I'm not reaching if my hope and faith and like conviction in this relationship is just like going down over time, like that's not good. I want to feel like we're able to repair and grow together. Um, but yeah, I think even the question of like how to know if breaking up was the right thing to do. I'm curious what you guys think. Like closure, finding closure is like a thing that you can do. Um,
Yeah, I think there's like several things that comes up for me. One is like, are the stuff that the reasons you want to break up for, are they changeable? I think
mhm.
like stuff like, do you want to have kids? Like, do you want to be poly? Like, that's like a really strong preference. Like people can try different things around that, but it's not really gonna change. Like it's really
Mhm.
that is incompatibility. I think for a lot of things, if you just are willing to put in the time and effort, it's just a matter of choice. Like, do you want to spend the time doing this? Will you think that this is worth it? Like that's up to you. And now I lost my train of thought. Do you want to go, Ava? And I'll loop back in afterwards.
Christine had a very wise thought, which often something I tell friends when like they're like, should I break up with this person? I don't want to deal with like their back and forth. I'm just like, let's check in 6 months. Like, usually there's a core issue, right? Like whether it's like, yeah, there's usually some core issue. I'm like, listen, we're here now, February. The core issue is this. I'm going to check in 6 months. If in 6 months we have not made any significant progress on the core issue, you have to just be like, this is what it is, And if it's important to you, you have to just be like, it's going to be like this. And I think that is something that's like really important, like where it's like, I think in a relationship, like you have to figure out what you really care about and you have to accept if like the relationship is failing on those points. And like if the relationship is failing on those points, you either have to be like, I can live with it, or you have to be like, I don't want to live with it. I want another relationship. And I think to me, it's like kind of like, that's what it boils down to, where you have to sort of be like, what are the non-negotiables? And can I set boundaries around them? And like people have different non-negotiables. Like people, like there are some people who genuinely don't care that much if they're sexually attracted to their partner. There are really people who are like, what I care about is having a really logistically successful partnership. Like we don't need emotional connection. Like people are so different. And so like, I don't think there's a one size fits all. Like I really think it's about like, you have to like be able to articulate to yourself, like what you value in like a relationship, a marriage, wherever. And you have to kind of just be like, does my current partnership fit that? And then, okay, let's give it 6 months. Have they changed on this, And if they haven't, you just have to be like, this is my life. Am I okay with that? And so like, for me, I think it's really about like identifying the things that matter and just seeing like, if you're okay with where they are or not. But I think it's really, really hard. I mean, the thing that's hard, obviously, is like, relationships are so emotional. They're about identity. They're about love. They're about attachment. They're about parental wounds. And so it's like, I think even when you know that someone's not the right person for you or they're not meeting your needs, it can feel so impossible to like break up with them. Or even if they break up with you, it can feel so impossible to accept the breakup, because it's about all of these really deep traumas. And so, there's sort of the right and wrong of like, can the relationship prosper? And like, does it work for you? And then there's also kind of like, yeah, but even if it doesn't, you might be like screaming, crying, throwing up, and that's okay. And so like, I think both things are real, right? Where it's like, yeah, like you have to sort of make like this informed decision about like, can this person give me the things I want? And then you also have to accept that like, even if they can't and the relationship ended for good reasons, I might be really hung up on this person. I think a lot of times people don't want to acknowledge the latter, but I think it's just true where it's like, sometimes even when like your partner really sucked and they broke your heart and like they weren't the right person for you, you can still be like, but I want them back, and that's okay.
Yeah, that also reminds me of something that I read in the Calling in the One book, which was like about like there is a part where you do like sort of like let go of previous ties and part of the idea is like the hope that you're using to sustain this previous relationship or like to keep that door open is actually like actively taking up the space that is supposed to be taken up by the hope of a new relationship. Um, and so
It's
like
literally like someone standing in your doorway.
yeah. And like I think there's something easier about because I think for me like a really hard thing about breakups is like losing hope, right? Like just like letting go of the hope of like all of this like future and all the things that you had planned. But if you think about like the new hope, it's like, oh, actually, like there's something else that I don't know about yet that's out there for me. And that helps kind of take on that like emotional load a bit. But yeah, and then I also think like for me, reading my journals, like after a breakup, it's like all about like getting myself to a point of like closure. So it's like, why did I break up with that person? And it's like you read all the journal entries and it's like full of like anxiety or something. You're like, oh, okay, I remember like there were reasons why I reached the decision that I did.
Yeah. I finally found my train of thought again.
Yeah.
Um, I think to the same point Ava said, like how do you handle conflict? Like, because I think the best relationships I've had is where conflict brings you closer.
Hmm.
And I think that's like such a good sign whether conflicts actually up levels your relationship or whether it's just like a loop that's constantly going. And I think that's like needs to be differentiated from how much conflict you have. Because you can have a lot of conflict, but like if each conflict actually up levels your relationship, it's actually a good thing. And then I think like around this breakups and stuff, what has helped me with these breakups was one thing my friend mentioned to me is like just breakups are good. Like if you just look back at like all of the breakups you've had, like it was always a good thing. And like looking at what happened after the breakup, like maybe you had a glow up, maybe you met someone else later that was better. But like in the moment, it can seem horrible. Like this person was the only one for you. But like something I'm trying to keep in mind is like it's like this person or someone better. Like the next person, if there's a next person, is gonna be better than this. And then another thing that helped me with this was um, instead of thinking of love connected to a specific person, like I see people as like a doorway to a network of love. So like my connection with them means I have access to the love of the universe, for instance. And so I'm just instead of thinking that because we no longer have that relationship, their love has gone away, I imagine that I have access to the love that I want. And I just like imagine that there's like a cloud of love following me around. And if I'm in pain, it's only because I'm like keeping the love out. And if I just like decide and imagine to let the love in, I feel much better.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
Um, I think that we can probably wrap it here for time's sake. Um,
That's a nice note to end it on.
yeah.
Yeah, great note.
Cool. Do you guys have any other things you want to say before we wrap the podcast?
I just think more people should be matchmaking their friends. And I know we are all matchmaking our friends, but I think there really is something where it can be intimidating, but I think it's such a public service. Just like you don't have to do romantic matchmaking, but like connect the friends that you think would get along, connect people who you think you should date. Like it's you only have to do it once. It's so easy, but like I think so many things good things can happen when you just introduce people who are cool with each other. And I really want to just suggest for everyone to do that.
Yeah. Um, Cleo, yeah. I feel like you just gave a really poetic thought, but like
Um, what do I want to say?
anything to plug? You guys can plug things.
Well, if someone want to try out coaching with me, I'm gifting first sessions away to see how it feels like and to see what value I can bring. I would love to jam with you on your love life or sex life.
You can find more information about me at ava.space.
Okay, cool. And I'll actually put all of these below in like the description anyways. Yeah, this was really fun. I actually felt like I know we're a little crunched on time, but I feel like we could have kept talking for like
Yeah,
much longer than
definitely.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want, I mean, we can always record a second one, but this was really fun. I guess I'll plug Cuties. Feel free to join. I'm actively working on it now, really exciting. So yeah, yeah, I don't know, stay tuned. And thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thank you for
Thank you,
having us.
Christine.
Okay, see you guys.
See you guys. Take
Bye.
care.